again, welcome everyone. It's great to have you here today. And with me here is Carrie, who's going to lead and speak at this event, Navigating Next Steps in Your Freelance Career. I hope you are going to find this session extremely helpful. I know it's very insightful. So over to you, Carrie.
Thank you, Eva, and thanks everyone for joining. I really appreciate you taking your time out of your evening to come and listen to me, and hopefully you'll find some value over the next 60 minutes or so. So my name is Carrie Parks. A little bit about me. So I've had a fairly decent and long career in IT. I started as a business analyst, project manager, moved through to transformation, change management. And I was a contractor and freelancer for 6 or 7 years. I even had a couple of contracts through Juno in the early days of my freelancing. And more recently, I was the IT director of a small IT company just locally to me here in Northampton. And earlier this year, I took parental leave. And during that time, I decided I'm going to do a coaching diploma. Now, at the time, I actually had no plans to be a coach. It's not what I wanted. I just wanted the tools to help me to really empower my team. So, as the operations director, I had a number of people working in my teams, and I wanted to learn the skills to help them to be the best versions of their self. And through the diploma, I actually received some of my own coaching. And it fairly quickly became apparent to me that all I wanted to do was actually empower people. I didn't want the job. I didn't want the day-to-day grind of being the ops director. And so I quit my job and I threw all my energy into being a professional and small business coach. And here I am today to really share with you some of the techniques that I went through that helped me to transition from the career I was in to a new career. Now, I think the key thing for me to say is it actually doesn't matter where you are in your career. These techniques that you learn today will help you gain some clarity and some understanding on kind of your current situation and also moving forward, some of the choices that you may want to make. So it really doesn't matter if you're waiting for your next contract or if you are looking to make a fundamental career change, maybe you're having a career break, or even you're looking to move into a permanent role. So moving back out of freelancing and back into permanent, these techniques should really add some value to you. So just to say as well, we'll be doing a couple of exercises during the course of this webinar. Feel free to join in. There's absolutely no need to share any of the work that you do, but hopefully doing some of those exercises may help you in some of the things that you might be thinking about in terms of your career changes. So this is me. This is me jumping from one platform to the other. Now, it may not look that far to you, but for me, I sat there next to those guys on the right-hand side for 15 minutes trying to pluck up the courage to make that jump. And you may be thinking to yourself, what the hell has this got to do with coaching? And quite honestly, a lot, as you'll see when we walk through the next 60 minutes or so. And, I had in my head thought that I couldn't jump. It was too far. I was going to injure myself. I'd never make it, and people would laugh at me. And I think the key thing for me was I can't do this because people would laugh at me if I fall. And I had some similar types of thoughts when I was going through my own coaching and looking at changing my career. I was thinking things like, I don't have the right skills. It's not the right time. I mean, I had just taken parental leave. Is it really the right time to change job? I'd have to take a pay cut. And that was a big thing for me. I'm too old. I'm in my early 40s. Is it really the right time for me to be making these changes? I don't know if any of you have ever had any similar thoughts, but these things are some fundamental blockers. They kind of put us in a state of freeze, state of procrastination, and it's difficult to move forward and to take action when we have these voices in our head. Now, I'm sure you know better than I do right now that the IT market is in the toilet. It's very difficult to find jobs in the current market, and has been for some time now. I've worked with a number of clients, both from Juno and outside of Juno, mostly in the IT market. And I'm hearing on a daily basis how difficult it is to find a job. And you know what the impact is? Confidence. So I have clients coming to me and saying to me, I don't have the confidence to find another job. I don't have the confidence to progress with my freelance business. And that is really a voice in their head that's stopping them from really taking action and moving forward. Now, we have a name for this in coaching. It's called a limiting belief. And a limiting belief is a judgment about yourself that you think to be true, that restricts you in some way. And the key word here is think. You think that it's true. Let's look at some of the ways that this actually kind of shows up in your life. So what are the impacts? So procrastination. I mean, who here hasn't procrastinated before, right? Self-doubt. We doubt ourselves. Lack of confidence, as I just talked about, many of my clients right now have this lack of confidence just because it's so difficult to find a job. Overwhelm. Some people get more overwhelmed than others, but there's definitely a feeling of overwhelm. And imposter syndrome. And yes, it genuinely is a real thing. Many of us will suffer from imposter syndrome at some point in our life. We might be sitting in a room thinking, how did we get here? We don't deserve to be here. But where do these things come from? Many of them come from childhood. So these could be based on experiences or interactions with the likes of parents, teachers, other authority figures. So let me give you an example. If a child is repeatedly told they are not good enough, that could lead to a limiting belief about their self-worth. Painful or traumatic experiences can also give rise to limiting beliefs. So an example here, let's say someone has encountered significant failure or rejection in the past. They may develop a belief that they are destined to fail, and that would lead to self-sabotaging behaviors. Societal and cultural norms can also shape our beliefs about what is possible and acceptable. And these will be different for each of us based on culture, based on religion, based on background. And in some cases, these norms can limit our aspirations and also contribute to beliefs about what is and isn't possible. Media plays a huge part in our beliefs. It portrays idealized beauty, wealth, success, and these can make us feel inadequate compared to these unrealistic standards that the media portrays. And finally, we interpret events and experiences through the lens of our own personal beliefs. So if we have a pre-existing belief, we may interpret new experiences in a way that reinforces that belief. Let me share a few examples with you so you can get a better understanding of what these are and how they kind of impact us. So I had a client who I worked with in the really early days of me starting this coaching journey. And she was just starting her own business. And every time she had a conversation with a prospect or, even an existing client about charging for her services, she would absolutely freeze. She struggled to have that conversation. She struggled to understand what to charge. She was super uncomfortable about putting the number on the table. And so why is this? So we looked at her limiting beliefs, and it came from her childhood. Now, she came from a pretty modest family. Her parents weren't particularly wealthy, but where they spent their money was on her private education. So they threw their money into her education, and her memory of the children that she went to school with, number one, they were super wealthy. She wasn't, but they were selfish in her mind. They were obnoxious. They essentially had a persona that she just didn't like. And so she associates wealth with that type of behavior. And so when it comes to speaking to her clients about what to charge, in her mind, she's thinking, oh, well, if I charge this much, maybe I'll become wealthy. Now, the thing to say is wealth means different things to different people, right? So the amount that she constitutes towards wealth may be very different to what you and I constitute towards wealth. So she, in her mind, was thinking, I don't want to, essentially, the limiting belief was, I don't want to be wealthy because wealthy people behave like this. So we worked through this, and she's going on a journey at the moment, and where she is right now is she is asking people to pay what they are comfortable with. Now, she's still got a long way to go, and I think the key thing here is these limiting beliefs, they don't happen overnight, right? They are embedded in us over years. Now, this particular lady I'm speaking about is in her early 50s, so she's got years of this being ingrained in her. But she's done some work, and she is in a far better place. She's confident to say, please pay me what you feel what value I give to you. So she's was in a position of self-doubt. She was self-doubt, she lacked confidence, and she procrastinated. And she's moving forward with all of these things, but she has some way to go. Another example, I have a really good friend who I'm coaching. He has a neurodiverse diagnosis. Now, unfortunately, there are significant limiting beliefs that have been instilled in him from childhood, traumatic events, social norms, and even media about neurodiversity. Now, I think we probably all know that that's changing in recent years, that there's a lot more education and understanding. But as someone in his early 30s, again, these perceptions are ingrained in him. Now, impact-wise, procrastination, self-doubt, lack of confidence, imposter syndrome, hands down, overwhelmed hugely. But he's done some amazing work, and where he is today is that he's referring to his neurodiversity diagnosis as his neurospiciness, and he's starting to see that as this superpower. So he's done some fantastic work here. A little example about me. So at the start of my coaching journey, so even before I decided that I was going to be a full-time coach, one of the things that we need to do as part of the diploma is coach people and submit those as part of the assessment. And I massively procrastinated. I was not setting up sessions and coaching anyone. Now, why was I doing that? I was doing that because I had a belief that I couldn't build rapport with new clients. I couldn't, and it's important, right? If you're coaching someone, you need a good rapport. They need to trust you. You need to trust them. And I just believed I couldn't do that. Now, where does that come from? That comes from my childhood. I was always told I'm super grumpy and that I need to smile more. And so that's embedded in me. And so, like I said, I procrastinated. I had self-doubt, and I had lack of confidence. And I was delaying completing my diploma because until I started these sessions, I couldn't finish the diploma. Now that we understand kind of where these things come from, let's talk about how you can actually work through them, how you can challenge them, and how you can kind of come out the other side. So first thing we do is we notice patterns. So pay attention to your inner dialogue and the thoughts that surface when you face challenges or self-doubt. So are there any reoccurring themes that come up there? Examine the origin. So we've just talked about the origins, right? So is that childhood? Is that media? Kind of where are these thoughts actually coming from? Challenge yourself. So here we need to ask ourselves critical questions like, well, is there any concrete evidence to actually support this belief? And finally, we find the truth. So here we find evidence of genuine events where we have actually defied these beliefs. So I don't know if anything's come up for you guys while we've been going through this. Have you had any thoughts about any potential limiting beliefs that you may have? Should we dive into an exercise? And we'll go through kind of a series of questions over the next 10 or 15 minutes. And hopefully this entire concept will become more clear to you, and you can see how you can work through your limiting beliefs. So if you want to grab a pen and paper or digitally, if you like, and we'll go through some questions, write down the answers. I'd love to hear from you, but by no means do you need to share. These are personal situations for all of us. So please feel free to write down, knowing that you don't need to share. Okay, so if everyone's ready, the first question is, what is your limiting belief? What is it that these voices in your head that are negative, that are stopping you? So mine was, I can't build rapport with clients. I've shared that a number of my clients have beliefs in their head that they lack the confidence to take any steps to move forward in their business or their career. So what is your personal limiting belief? And if anyone has any questions or needs me to rephrase, please put that in the chat, and Eva, hopefully you can help me manage that. Okay, so next question then. On a scale of 1 to 10, how true do you think this belief is? So 1 being not true and 10 being very, very true. How true do you think it is? Write down some examples of times or situations where this is not true. Where this is not true. So for me, I actually had genuine evidence of me being able to build really strong relationships with clients and suppliers in my previous profession. So I had evidence of where it actually wasn't true. Where is this not true? All right, next question then. What are the consequences of holding on to this belief? The consequences of holding on to it. For me, as I talked about, I procrastinated. I wasn't getting started in my coaching. I wasn't continuing with my diploma. What are the consequences of holding on to this belief? How do you benefit from holding on to this belief? Benefit. How do you benefit? Now, you might think, well, you wouldn't benefit from holding on to the belief, but in some cases you can. So I have a client who has really strong limiting belief around needing financial stability. So she takes the job with the highest paycheck. And it's all about the money. It doesn't matter about kind of what that job is and how much enjoyment she has. So she feels dead inside every day. But what is the benefit? The benefit is at 22, she bought a flat, and at 24, she's just preparing to buy a house. So there has been a benefit for her holding on to that belief. So for you, what is the benefit for holding on to your belief? If you let go of this belief, what is possible? What is possible? What could you achieve if you actually just let it go? Stopped thinking about it. What could you achieve? Okay. So if you can just reflect on the things that you've written there, and now on a scale of 1 to 10, so we're doing another scale of 1 to 10, how true do you think it is now? So looking at the things that you've just written, the evidence that you have, where it is either benefiting or not benefit, how true is this belief now? 1 being not true and 10 being very, very true. Okay, so that's the end of the exercise. If you followed, I hope that it kind of had some value, that you were able to work through the belief. Ideal situation that the belief is less true now. It's just a super light touch look into limiting beliefs. From a genuine coaching perspective, we do a lot more work in this and really dig into it. But hopefully this kind of just gave you a sense of how to uncover those beliefs and start breaking them down. Now, if anyone would like to share, I'd love to hear, but of course I understand it's personal. And I'm genuinely particularly interested in, is there anyone whose scale had reduced? So is the belief less true now for anyone? So Alyssa, I have imposter syndrome with a twist. I feel like I'm not an expert because I have made a career out of the wrong job. What do you mean by the wrong job there, Alyssa? Do you mean maybe a job that just isn't in line with your values?
If you prefer to unmute yourself, Elisa, you can also speak. That's perfectly fine.
And if anyone else would like to share, please go ahead. So Alyssa says, I'm a chef who became a writer, but really I should have worked with animals or done something super arty and creative. That's great to have that genuine sort of self-awareness and insight. And when we get further down the presentation and the webinar, we'll talk about values. And Alyssa, some of these things that you talk about here are key. If you understand your values and the things that really inspire you, they will help you to define the right career, the right USP for your business. So we'll talk more about that when we get to that section. So if there's no one else, I will move on. So the next section is strengths. Now, we all need to understand what our strengths are. The strengths are obviously the things that we are best at. Hopefully we enjoy the things that we're really good at. And as freelancers, in many cases, we are our business. So the USP of our business is likely to come somewhat from our strengths, also from the likes of our values, but heavily from our strengths. So how do we understand what our strengths are? We can ask ourselves questions like, when you felt in the zone at work, what were you doing? When everything just clicked, what was it that you were really doing? Can you recall a time when you overcame a challenge using your unique abilities? Or even what skills or qualities do you believe set you apart from your peers? Now, super important, you should really ask other people what your strengths are as well. So we often have a biased perception of ourselves. We may downplay strengths or be overly critical of our abilities, but seeking input from others can provide a more balanced and realistic view of our strengths. So maybe a small bit of homework for everyone. If you ask maybe 5 people to give you what they think 3 of your strengths are, I suspect it'll be really insightful, and you'd probably get some key themes across each of that feedback. So core values, we've obviously looked at limiting beliefs and we've looked at strengths. Now let's look at core values. Core values deeply important, and I do a lot of work with my clients on core values. So it really helps them to understand kind of themselves better, understand what drives them, and understand where to put their energy, both personally and professionally as well. So a core value is a fundamental belief and principle that guides and influences your behavior, decisions, and actions. And these values represent the core essence of what is important and meaningful to us. Core values serve as a foundation for making ethical, moral, and strategic choices. So let's take ethical decisions, for example. So in your freelance business, you may choose, let's say, not to work with clients that are in the tobacco industry, or you will only work with clients that are dedicated to being green. From a strategic perspective, your values can help you to define your mission and your vision. So let me share with you a couple of examples. I mentioned earlier I had a client who has a limiting belief around needing like genuine financial stability. So she takes paychecks over enjoyment. She generally will work at large companies because they pay more. They are inherently slow to change. She is a very small cog in a large wheel, and she hates her job. Now, she struggles to understand why, because she earns well, she has a good flat, you know, she has financial stability. So what's wrong? Like, why is she not enjoying her job, her life? And we did a values elicitation session for her. And some of her key values are empowering others, openness to change, feeling empowered herself, and unrestricted or without limits. So essentially freedom. Now, the impact to her after doing the session was she started to understand why she's dead inside. So, you know, is she getting these things from her job? Is that organization open to change? No. Is she feeling empowered? No, because she is a tiny cog and she doesn't have the autonomy or the authority or the support around her to allow her to feel that way. And she is certainly not free or, you know, unlimited, because she is restricted to a tiny kind of, you know, role in a very huge company. So she is actively doing work on her limiting belief and looking at how she can make changes in her life to better live by her core values. Another client of mine, we did a whole host of work on his limiting beliefs and his strengths, and he was super clear on what set his business apart from others in terms of his strengths. And when we did his values, some of his values were being approachable, being trusting, being an expert or knowledgeable in his field, and living a sustainable life. So the impact for him was that he then understood that all of these things would fit very well being translated into his business. So he wanted to send a message to his clients that he was approachable and that he was trustworthy, and that he was an expert. So when he sells his services, he's not just selling an execution, he's selling a partnership. He wants to sit down, have a conversation about you and your business and how he can help. And it really helped him to identify his USP and his target audience. So his messaging is now become very clear. We worked together over 8 sessions, and in that time, he, you know, in the current market, right, which is very difficult, he grew his business by an additional 3 clients. Now he is a packaging designer. And his focus is purely now on sustainable packaging. So he wants to work with organizations that are willing to put in the effort, the understanding, the dollar power behind putting together sustainable packaging and making things green. So hopefully that made some level of sense, but why don't we dive into another exercise to help you to elicit your core values. When I work with my clients on this, we have a number of hours where we go through a series of questions and some real sort of techniques, but we've got a few minutes now. Why don't we spend another 10 or 15 so minutes delving into just a light touch kind of exercise in your core values. So again, if you want to grab a pen and paper or digitally, and at the end of the exercise, feel free to share, but you absolutely don't have to. So question number 1, can you identify a time when you were the happiest? The happiest. So maybe think about things like what was going on, who were you with, what were you doing when you were the happiest? Again, if you have any questions for me, please feel free to put them in a chat, or equally kind of put your hand up and speak. Next question then. Identify a time where you were most proud. Where you were most proud. What were you most proud of? So kind of what were you doing? What was the outcome? Was there even any impact on others when you were most proud? Okay. Identify a time when you were most fulfilled and satisfied. Fulfilled and satisfied. To think about things like, what were you doing? Who were you with? What was going on around you? Fulfilled and satisfied. Identify the activities, hobbies, or day-to-day things that you really enjoy doing. So, is it art? Is it sport? Is it just chilling? Like, what are the things that you really enjoy doing with your free time? Or even at work, what do you really love doing? Just write a list. As long as the things are coming into your head, just put them down on the paper. Identify who or what inspires you. So you can put down more than one thing here. So is there any person or any action or behavior of somebody that really inspires you? And the final question, identify qualities that you dislike in others. So is there anyone that really rubs you up the wrong way, that super irritates you and really kind of in your core just really frustrates you? What is it about that person that irritates you? qualities that you dislike in others? Now, you may think this is a bit of a weird question, but actually, it's one of the questions that is probably one of the most powerful when eliciting core values. And the reason why is because if you really dislike something in someone, in many cases, it means that you have the opposite in you as a core value. So, for example, if you really dislike somebody that you perceive to be a liar, it probably means that at your core, you really value trust, honesty, and integrity. Okay, so that's the end of that quick fire exercise. If you kind of take a look at that list that you've got, are there any general themes? Are you picking up on, things across each of those questions? Are you picking up any sort of core values? Is there anything that feels right to you that actually looks like it identifies and embodies who you are as a person? And if you would like to share, by all means, please put your hand up and speak, or alternatively share in the comments. Okay, I will transition to the next slide then. Okay, so let's look at some of the benefits of identifying your core values, and these are both for personal and for your business as well. So from your business perspective, identifying your values could really help you with your purpose. So your mission, your vision, it can really help you to guide choices. So if you have a North Star, your mission or your vision, it could help you to make decisions. So let's say, for example, you had 2 new prospects, but you genuinely only had the time for one, so you could only deliver one. How do you choose? Let's say and let's say money wasn't a deciding factor here. But your one of your values was sustainability, and one of these clients was looking for a sustainable solution. That would help you to choose which client to work with. Achieving goals is easier because you have clarity on your purpose, you have clarity on your priorities. Increasing commitment is much easier because you have clarity, alignment, and focus. So you can use these things to they will generate increased commitment. Self-awareness helps in assessing situations and making decisions. And finally, you should hopefully have some reduced stress. Why? Because again, the clarity and focus will really help you to move in a steady direction. It will help you to be more clear and more aligned. So we've looked at limiting beliefs, we've looked at strengths, we've looked at values, and now we come to challenges. So this is me again. I jumped, I made it to the other side, but as you can see, I'm now hanging on for dear life, and I need to muscle my way up and over this obstacle. So again, how does this relate to our careers and where we are? So making changes or moving forward will undoubtedly come with real challenges or blockers. In this picture, my challenge was strength. Did I have enough upper body strength to pull myself up and over? Now, to be successful, we genuinely need to identify these obstacles and put a plan in place to either mitigate, solve, or remove these. And we should set goals that move us towards overcoming these challenges. So talking about goals, who here has set a goal and just never completed it? I mean, I'm absolutely guilty of that. And this happens for a number of reasons. And some of the reasons we've talked about in limiting beliefs and in values. But more simply, it could be because the goal is too big. Have you ever heard of SMART goals? I think most of us here probably have. So specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And actually, it's really important that we focus on these elements. It will help us to break the goal down into smaller, actionable elements. So things that we are capable of delivering in a week or 2 weeks that will keep us motivated, that will prove to us that we are actually making progress. We also need support. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Perhaps you need your partner to cook dinner once a week so that you have the time to work on your goal. Getting support is crucial to allow you the time to focus on moving forward. And lastly, how committed are you to achieving this goal? Now, if you're an 8 out of 10 or above, the likelihood is that you will take the steps to achieve it. If you're a 7 out of 10 or below, evidence suggests that you're probably not going to take that action. You will probably procrastinate, you may lose interest, you will probably just eventually stop trying altogether. In this case, you should assess, why are you not fully committed? Is the goal aligned with your values? Is it small enough to be achievable? Do you have the necessary support to allow you the time to actually work on this goal? You should really figure out the underlying issue and then reset that goal. And the final thought I want to leave you with this evening is, stop comparing yourself to others. We genuinely all have this tendency, and not only does it diminish our self-worth, it can lead to unrealistic standards. So my message to you is, just be yourself. Be awesome. I'd like to open up the floor to any questions. Feel free to put your hand up and speak, or alternatively use the chat. If there's anything you'd like to know about the presentation or coaching.
Just like I said, thank you. It was quite an eye-opener for me. Having been in a big agency that started with 60 people and then grew to be the biggest one in the UK with VCCP, and then that ethics thing, I've spent the last 3 years working on clients like Mondelez and Shell, and I'm now kind of glad to be out of it and to be able not to have to work on clients of that sort of nature. But yeah, I think that's put some really good thoughts in my head about who I should be working for and who I shouldn't be working for. So, and that money's not the be all and the end all.
Not always, and for some people it is, right? We're all different, but for when it's not, when we're in a fortunate enough position for it to not be, we are then able to take choices, based on what we're comfortable with, based on what kind of inspires and thrives, makes us thrive. So thank you for that comment.
Thank you for that. It's been good. Thank you.
Just want to ask a question about what you think of things like LinkedIn, because I find LinkedIn is as bad for my mental health in a business capacity as sort of Facebook can be for people in and I'm showing my age a bit, in a personal capacity. I feel that you see people telling you what amazing things they can do on LinkedIn, and that just contributes to my whole imposter syndrome situation.
And is that because you're comparing yourself to others?
Oh, completely, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? I do it myself. So, starting the coaching business, I'm looking at other coaches and thinking, well, how do you have that many clients, or how do you know exactly what your niche is? And we all do it. But unfortunately, LinkedIn is a necessary evil. It is in this day and age. It is how we get clients. It is how we promote ourselves. But I think the thing that I would say is, just as hard as it is, don't compare yourself to others. Try to understand you and what you need and what your business is, and then just push forward with that. And stop looking at what everyone else is doing.
Thank you.
Anyone else? So Eva, I saw your note there. I don't know if it was just me, but it was much easier to identify my limiting beliefs than strengths and core values. It takes a lot of reflection. So yes, that was a super quick exercise on core values. When I work with my clients, we do it over 2 sessions and we really dig into it. So, a lot of time is spent into really trying to understand that. And strengths, as I said, ask others. We have blind spots about ourselves, but other people can normally see what we're really good at. Any other questions?
Yeah, sorry, I've just from the first exercise, I had, I suppose, some self-perceived limiting beliefs with marketing myself.
Okay.
Do you find that's typical of, let's say, your clients who have reservations about broadcasting themselves on social media or wherever?
Yes.
And do they typically overcome their
Yes.
perceived shortcomings?
Yes, 100%. And it's people that I've worked with, people that feel entirely uncomfortable about shouting about their achievements. They just, there are people that are on LinkedIn every day saying, I achieved this, or I went to this conference and I met this person, and I did this small thing. And there are other people that just feel cringeworthy in doing that. And some of the beliefs are, well, so what if I went to a conference and met this person? It doesn't mean anything. It's not big enough to shout about. Or there are, just other beliefs about being uncomfortable about publicizing your strengths or the things that you're doing. And absolutely, I work with a number of people on these types of things. And they are, there's some general themes, but they are always individual to each person.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, it's me, Catherine.
Hey.
People, well, I'm old, and in advertising, I'm 61. Doesn't look like it, but I find that people are on average 33 years old in advertising, and they think that you may not be able to understand new media or whatever. I mean, it's like a kind of a handicap, really, or something not very. You have to hide it. I don't even put all my dates on my CV. I've got 40 years of experience, and to me, it's out of question that I put it, which is crazy, really. So what do you think of this? It's quite incredible, really. The younger you are, the more people trust you or something. It's an upside down world.
Yeah, I hear you, Catherine. And to be honest, I've faced some of that myself. So I have 20 years of experience. And before moving into coaching, when I was filling in applications for, let's say, project management jobs, and they would ask, how many years experience do you have in X? I've got 20, but I chose to put in 10 because I feel like, 10 is enough, but 20 is too much. Now, in some cases, this is the world we live in. As much as we all should have diversity and inclusion, and we shouldn't be ageist. Unfortunately, this is the reality. But some of the work that you can do with a coach is understanding how much of that is genuine reality and how much of that is actually within yourself. So even for me, one of the limiting beliefs I had, which I mentioned at the start, is I'm too old to make this change. Now, what evidence did I have? I had no real evidence. That was just me, right? I was thinking that I'm too old. But I'm not saying that's the answer to everything. There are, of course, real life issues where ageism does exist.
Really.
Yeah.
You can't really say things which are. It's just an observation. I know you don't really have the answer. That's the way it is. I find it absolutely insane. Really, it really bothers me. All right, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Elissa, you mentioned when you asked when were you most satisfied and fulfilled, my answers were basically on holiday, i.e. in the sunshine, on a boat, on a Vespa, etc. Does this mean that should be my job? Please say yes. So, I mean, great. I mean, if you imagine you could have a job, maybe it could be some sort of like, travel on Netflix, doing a travel documentary or something. That's just one piece of the puzzle, and I can't say from just that, no, that should be your job. One of my clients had a very similar answer to that question. And the reason for her was that she put so much pressure on herself to deliver, to achieve, to constantly be better and do more, that actually really she only felt enjoyment when she was not doing anything, when she was relaxing. So for her, it was more about balance. It was more about actually maybe put less pressure on yourself, and start to enjoy some of the day-to-day things more. But everyone is completely different, Alyssa, and I'm, obviously with just a small bit of information, I'm not sure that's fully applies to you.
It does a bit. Thank you.
Okay. Any other thoughts or questions? Okay. Well, if anyone would like to find out a little bit more about coaching, here are my contact details, and I know Eva is going to send this presentation around a little bit later, and it will have this information in it. But please feel free to reach out to me with any questions. Book a call if you'd like. If you would like coaching, my price list is attached there as well. I'm so happy for you to take a look at that. Any final questions from anyone?
Thank you everyone for joining. It's been a pleasure to see you here today. And yeah, let's do a virtual round of applause, which you can do by clapping a little bit. There's an icon for this. Thank you for joining and also asking your questions. I don't know if the hands that are being raised right now, are these the last minute questions or are these the applause? But if there is still some time, then please feel free to ask. We're going to share the recording, but also feel free to come on our Slack and share any questions with Kerry and with other attendees if you can. So thanks again, once again. Yeah, you can connect on LinkedIn, I believe. I'm going to share all the details, which also include Kerry's LinkedIn.
Cheers. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
a
you,
lot.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.